Hello, friends. In today's episode, I'm talking to Chris Stevenson, who's a real badass. He's a former Power Ranger stuntman, for real, though we don't talk about that in this episode. He's the founder of Stevenson Consulting, based in California, and he's also recently the founder of Be Military Fit California, bringing that world-renowned brand to the U.S. We have a great conversation. We talk a little bit about strategies for getting clients back after COVID, how empathy can be a powerful tool in that project. We talk a little bit about the value of virtual training, both now and in our post-COVID world. He talks about the importance of defining your company values, your purpose, and your mission, which is something I've talked a lot about on this podcast, and it's great to hear his perspective. And he also gives some really great tips for how leaders can plan during uncertainty. So if that sounds fun for you, then keep on listening and watching. Let's do this. The Business for Unicorns podcast is for fitness business owners who want actionable strategies to grow their business, take amazing care of their clients, and build a life and business they truly love. I'm your host, Michael Keeler, co-founder of Mark Fisher Fitness, and through Business for Unicorns, I'm a coach and consultant to industry-leading fitness studios around the world. Let's get started. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Business for Unicorns podcast. Michael Keeler here with another exciting episode. I'm really excited to have this conversation today with Chris Stevenson. He's a total badass. You just heard his bio in my introduction, and I'm so super excited to have him. So let's just welcome him in. What's up, Chris? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so happy to be here. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. And happy 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Is that a thing? Happy 2020?
I don't know. I'm trying to put a spin on it. That's like, there's still some good things happening. It's not all bad. There's lots to be sad about, but there's also a lot of innovation and creativity and perseverance. So,
yeah,
I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I will tell you that although not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, our industry in particular, the fitness business industry, watching competitors who have tried to throttle each other for years, sit across a table and try to figure things out together is inspiring. So I think the industry being really unified and not only to all survive, but to elevate our industry's perception. Because I think one thing we've learned in COVID is that we're seen often as recreational or just supplemental. And a lot of this push is leading to people realizing, wow, exercise is really important. And these are essential services. It's not just something to do for fun. So yes, there's some upside.
There's some upside. Yeah, especially in a country with such a shitty healthcare system, and we can say shitty on this podcast. Noted. Yeah, that the work we do is even more vital, and I think this year has highlighted that in a way that I think is super important. So yeah, let's actually just talk about that. So given the ups and downs we've had throughout this last year, just reflecting on it for yourself, what are the lessons you've been learning about yourself or about your business as a result of being in this kind of COVID cyclone?
It's interesting. So I've owned and operated clubs. I've been in the industry over 20 years, owned and operated clubs for 17 years, and moved into the consulting and speaking space right before COVID. And every friend of mine who still owns a brick and mortar facility hates me right now. They're like, and I'm like, hey, it just was a good opportunity. It wasn't, it's not like I predicted COVID coming. But what's been neat about that is throughout the time, I've got to spend more of my energy. I'm on the board of directors for URSA. So I've been in the trenches with them, trying to create more awareness and advocacy and good press on our industry. So that's been enlightening. I also offered to several organizations inside and outside of our industry. I said, you know what? I'm fortunate to be in okay shape throughout this, and I'm grateful for that. So I was able to do a lot of pro bono work with a lot of clubs who really needed help. So, it was say 2020 sucks, right? But my experience hasn't been all that bad. I've been able to build new relationships, help other clubs get, kind of weather the storm through everything from writing copy to helping, in the early stages, come up with the guidelines and those sort of things. But overall, I think one thing through this pandemic is, well, I'll share two little things. One, empathy is probably the most powerful tool a leader could ever have. And, I stressed that with everybody that I worked with and consulted with throughout this pandemic. I said, listen, we see things a certain way, but what you have to do is put yourself in the shoes of the members and also the shoes of your staff and see where are they coming from in this situation and how can I best lead and help them? Because sometimes, especially in a panic type situation where you're freaking out, you're just like, let's go. Okay, let's go forward. Let's push. And you've got these people who are afraid because of COVID and hesitant and fearful for their own incomes and their own well-being and just in general. So I think, empathy is a massive tool that leaders need to have. And it's always been important, but I think this sort of amplified just how important it is. And then as you and I were kind of talking prior to this, I think innovation. I think our industry has not been as innovative as other industries as it should be. And this all of a sudden forced the innovation.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is,
Sure.
all the things like the great innovation online and remote, like you guys have been doing, those are things we need to continue to improve on past the pandemic and not say, well, this is over, let's stop. We got to keep rolling with that. The way the industries come together, we need to continue to remarket to not just aesthetics, but wellness and fight, the ability to fight disease and the ability to live longer lives. So I think maintaining some of the sort of upsides that we realized during COVID need to be maintained afterwards.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. And I think it's a great lesson for leaders, not just in COVID times, but this idea of leading with empathy or leading by listening, and really understanding the perspective of others is so important. And, and it's unfortunate that for some people, the lesson had to come in this package. But ultimately, it's a great lesson to have, right? That your job as a leader is not always to have all the answers, but to ask what others need first. And I think that's been really useful. And I love what you said about innovation. I've always been, as someone who considers themselves a kind of outsider to this industry, even 10 years in, I've always been saying, that I think the industry needs to turn outside of itself, stop all that navel gazing, and look to other industries for ways that we can innovate and try new things and better articulate what our value. And so I'm so glad you were on the same page about that, because I want more advocates in this industry to help us stretch ourselves in that way. And so I'm right there with you, my friend.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing you guys did particularly well with your online offering, with your virtual stuff is, and this is something I've told everybody, it can't feel like we're doing this because we can't do the real thing.
Yeah.
What you guys did was created an entire brand that says, here's another option we offer. It's well done. It's well organized. It's professional. Same thing with outdoor training. We're working with a company on this new outdoor project. It can't be like we're outside because we can't be inside. That devalues it. It takes away. You're going to make it's outdoors if it's virtual. It's its own standalone product that will remain when the pandemic's over and just be another alternative to the in-person experience. So to those of you listening, don't treat it like, don't market it. Don't treat it like we can't do this. So we'll do this until we can do this. Cause then it's not good. Make it its own unique brand and you're going to have a lot more success.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's a good tip when you're selling anything. Don't make the thing you're selling seem like the crappy alternative to the other thing you really want to sell.
Right. And with pricing, right? I mean, people are asking me, should I, and we, for whatever reason, naturally feel like we need to discount it because it's virtual. I'm like, really? What do you sell? You sell your expertise and your motivation and holding people accountable, whether that's in person or you're selling the same thing. So if you keep that in mind, I mean, and you do it in a professional way, your price shouldn't even change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've really thought about it like that at MFF for sure. As we sold our homebody product, it's really been like, well, let's sell this as if this is our new business, right? As this, and we want them to love it so much that that we're going to struggle to get them back in a good way, right? Back in person, right? And there's many people who we might keep online forever, but that's okay, right? Yeah, we built a product that's priced in a way that we are cool with that if that's what happens.
Yeah, and you guys in particular have such a unique brand, right? That you have more reach. So there are going to be people who live out on the West Coast near me that said, man, I've always wanted to do that. Now I can. Yeah. So you increase your reach and serve people that you could have never served before because they love what you do and they love your brand. And I think it's going to be, a feeder program. I really do. I think people that may be skeptical or insecure about that one-on-one experience, you go to a trainer who's charismatic and fit and awesome and you're out of shape, and that can be intimidating, but you do a few sessions online and then you get to the point where all of a sudden you feel comfortable going in. So I think it increases reach. It's a feeder program. And then like you said, it's a standalone product for those people that's all that they'll ever want. So I think 100%. It's a home run.
Yeah. And we're already, I'm hearing lots of folks doing this, a lot of our Business of Unicorns clients doing this, but we're already planning for how does this in-person and online things, how do they work together, right? How long-term, even after COVID, after everyone's got the vaccine, we're back to a new normal, how do these two things work together? And all the things you just said, it can be a great feeder program. It can be a great trial. It can be a great bring a friend option. It can be a great referral engine. It can be a great, there's so many things that you can do if you have a great online option. So I think we're going to see more in that. It's not going away. I think there's
Yeah.
definitely a bubble, but I think it's not going to completely collapse in on itself.
No, and I think with being shut down as long as we have, it's about 21 days to hit the tipping point of a habit and 66 days, I think, roughly to form a habit. So where if I would have said, hey, Michael, can I train you via Zoom prior to the pandemic? You'd be like, no, dude, that's weird, right? No, that's just too weird. Well, it's been normalized. So now let's just say if I'm traveling and you as the trainer say, great, log in from your hotel, we'll do our workouts. So it'll keep you engaged with your customers at normally times they're like, hey, I'm gone for 2 weeks on vacation. And then maybe they lose interest or whatever. So it keeps that constant engagement. And from the personal training standpoint, you go through sessions quicker. So you'll use up packages quicker and it's better economically. So I think it's a home run all the way around.
I've heard a few coaches refer to it as this has taken one excuse off the table for clients.
Yeah.
I can't make it in. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not a reason anymore. Where are you? Do you have 3 square feet around you? We can work out there these days. We've been doing it. People holding cats and dogs and jugs of milk. There's no reason to not work out at home. Let me switch gears and ask you about this, because I know one of the topics I know you love talking about a lot is culture and creating culture. And I'll speak for myself and I'll say that I've been so moved by how MFF's culture has kind of continued to stay alive in this year and thrive, and how our community has rallied around us as a business, and hopefully we have a business have continue to support, inspire, and motivate them. And so many of the people I work with, Business Unicorns, feel the same way, that people who had a strong culture going into COVID, both internally and with their clients, have done really well because there's a real relationship there that's beyond the transaction. And so I just wanted to ask you, because I know this is something you love, is, if you didn't have that going into COVID and you had to start now, where do people start? How do you think about building culture in our industry?
Well, it all starts with mission, vision, and values. And I think oftentimes entrepreneurs or people that, that are starting up a business, they see that as a task rather than as the thing that's going to define them for the eternity of their career, right? It's like mission statement, train people really hard and get result. They don't really put the time and effort. And, this can be a multi-day week process with your key stakeholders. And when you invest the time into really, at the end of the day, where your key people on your team go, I stand for that. I'm all in on that. I am in on this mission, and I am on this core purpose means the world to me. I live by these core values. That's the key. So I think it's going through the process, and there's some great books out there. Start with Why is a great book that fundamentally helps with that. Traction. There's one by Jim Collins. I don't remember. It was Good to Great. There's a bunch of books out there that give you the tools, but invest the time in really figuring out your core purpose, which is why you exist. Your mission statement, which is how you execute the reason you exist, and your core values, the things that you bend and never break on. And then so if you got that strong culture in place, then you shift to the pandemic, there were a lot of decisions to be made. Some very, very challenging. And I guarantee you, well, I know for a fact from a lot of the clubs I worked with, great people flirting with not doing the right thing. And, like, do I stay open against guidelines? Right. That's a great question. Well, it should be defined by your culture. What does your vision, mission, value say to do? Do I continue to bill, or do I freeze billing, or all of those things? Decisions are made easier when you have the right culture in place. And then, of course, you hire by that culture. So anytime you're putting a team together, clubs I've worked with, clubs I've run, the first thing I do is put the purpose, mission, values in front of somebody at the start of an interview. Say, I want you to read through this really quickly, and then we're going to talk about what that means to you, and if you think it's something that aligns with your values. And we've had people say, no. And that's fine, because then they're not going to be a great team member. It's not that my mission, vision, values, that thing is correct. It's just, it's ours. It's what we've created. And it's great for a certain group of people. Same thing with MFF, right? You've got a great culture. Some people would definitely be like, yeah, I'm out. Yeah. But you don't want those people. They would never help you take your business to the next level and support the way they need to. So it's just, and it's funny too. And throughout my career, and we've all grown through our careers. The further along I get, the more I look at different companies and different organizations, and we're forming a new company now. And I'm like, gosh, it just consistently reinforced how important it is to start there and to make sure that is done properly. And I've helped other companies create it. And the ones that take that seriously run more seamlessly. They have less, you've got higher engagement in your employees. You have less people leaving. You've got less people arguing because everybody's on the same page. That's the fundamental thing. And again, to some people, it's not cheesy. Is it really that important to mission? It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad I hear you say that, Chris, because it's something, it's a drum I beat all the time at Business for Unicorns when we're working with
Mhm.
clients. And the biggest mistake I see people make is, like you said, treat it like a task, treat it like some academic exercise. They write down the things on a piece of paper and then they think they're done.
Mhm.
They write down the mission statement or put it up on a wall. They think they're done,
Mhm.
and so you mentioned one way already. So I'm curious to hear more ideas about how to keep these things alive and vibrant and present and palpable in the business, and
Uh-huh.
incorporating them into your hiring process is a no-brainer. Or you absolutely have to have your values and your mission, all that incorporated. Where else? How else can gym owners make sure that their mission, their vision, their values, their purpose is really palpable every day in the business? What other tips or tricks do you have for that?
So that's a great question. One is totally market and propaganda. So, it is important to have it on your wall, and it's important
Yep.
to have it posted in your offices, and it's, behind the welcome desk where people like, it is important to have that stuff everywhere. So that's one piece, but that doesn't totally do the job. Right. So in addition to giving them the core values and everything at the, when they get hired or at the interview process, they're also given an evaluation, an employee evaluation, and we evaluate their adherence to mission, vision, values on the evaluation. So I always joke when I present, so many people evaluate on punctuality and appearance and attitude. I'm
Mhm.
like, no, I mean, what am I giving you a 3 on punctuality? If you're not on time, you don't work for me. If you don't have a great attitude, you don't work on our team. You know what I mean? Those things shouldn't be evaluated. But if you've got strong core values, you could say, core value number 1. And then, so for example, at the last club we owned and operated, it was build real relationships. And then under that, we have 5 sub bullets, because the more you can make it black and white, the adherence, the better.
Yep.
Because build real relationships could be very nebulous. But when I say, here's what that looks like. Did you attend our social events? Did you send all the postcards we asked you to send to members? So they're very, did you friend all the, on Facebook, so we make it very tangible. I also believe leadership should be black and white to the best of your ability, because that makes it easy. Hey, you either
Yeah.
A or B, and this is the so, I mean,
Yep.
so that's a big thing too. But yeah, so we do it through evaluating. And then I also, especially at leadership level, expressing gratitude based on your core values is huge as well. So I see, Michael, you're on the floor talking to this member and you guys are laughing, having this great conversation. Afterwards, I'm like, hey, way to build a real relationship. I saw you guys, you're engaged, your eye contact, that is exactly what we're looking for here. So, reflecting or at the mission at the club was everybody leaves feeling better than when they arrived. So I could easily pull a Group X instructor and say, your class was awesome. I guarantee you everybody in that room left feeling better than when they arrived.
Yeah.
So through gratitude, through evaluations, through the hiring process, through that marketing and propaganda. And then finally, and I think that the other really key one that shows the whole world, your whole team, that you mean this stuff, fire by it. If you fire based on core values, people are like, this matters. I mean, I'm sure you've had that,
Yeah.
we had one trainer, huge book of clients, and I'm allowed to curse. He was an asshole. He was just one of those guys slipped through the hiring process, and he was good at what he did, but monopolized space, didn't engage with the other members. And we're probably in certain ways similar. Our last club is similar to you guys, where it's interactive and fun. And, we want that engagement. It's much more than a workout, just rude and not nice and irresponsive. And when we fired him, the rest of the staff was like, oh my God, that was the busiest guy we had. And they didn't care. It was more important that he was doing the things they say are important. So, as much as hiring is important, the firing piece really makes a statement.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are all so great. My friends, I hope you're writing those things down. And if you're watching, I even put a graphic just to remind you, because those are some great tips, right? If you want to make sure that your values and your mission is all integrated in, you've got to catch, I think the summary that I often use is catch people doing things right. If you see people, demonstrating your values, say so. Go celebrate them and reward them for doing so, and make sure that all of your processes and procedures also reflect your values and the way you want people to show up and your evaluations of them. So I think those are all really great tips, Chris.
And by the way, one little piece on that as well is employee engagement's challenging. And many of the listeners, I'm sure, have smaller companies, right? I mean, relative to 200,000 square foot facilities with 300 employees. So when you look at the studies of employee engagement, obviously fair pay is huge. But another one that's huge is the ability to climb the ladder in a company. So some of our smaller companies, they don't have that vertical climbability. but just under that is being appreciated. So expressing gratitude on a regular basis when you can't necessarily offer massive raises or massive promotions, that employee engagement through your culture is really huge. Yeah. And then I'll share one quick thing with you. I did a workshop for the indoor climbing industry at this climbing facility, and I was taking him through this piece about firing. And the owner was in there, and he took a guy sitting next to him. He said, "Can I see you outside for a second?" And they go out, and this is the middle of a workshop, I swear to you. The owner comes back in, and he's like, "I heard what you said. It really means something. So Tony is no longer working with this team because he doesn't really vibe with the culture and all that." And I'm sitting there horrified, right? Even though I believe in it and I've done it personally, I was like, I didn't really want it to happen in front of me sitting here.
I didn't mean right now.
and the dude, I swear to you, and then after like 5 minutes after we all kind of settled and I started reluctantly presenting again and everyone was nervous, he's like, "Okay, I'm just kidding. But I wanted to make a point that this is how I was like, oh, thank goodness. I mean, I want you to live by that, but not right in front of me." So the guy's waiting for me in the parking lot and he wants to fight.
Seriously, I love the theatrics though. I mean, that's really well done. Yeah.
It was definitely impactful.
Yeah, seriously. That's amazing. Well, let's just switch gears because I think that, the other side of this culture coin is about the customers, right? It's about the clients. And so, so far we've been talking about culture as a reflection of the kind of the internal team and how we have mission and values. And most of those things for most companies are pretty internally focused about how we do things around here as a team. And I know you also, you agree with me in saying that the customer experience is just so important. You can have the best marketing and sales processes on the planet, and and you can have a great team, but if you don't actually have a customer experience that's well crafted and well designed, that's aligned with your culture, then you're kind of SOL. And so how do you think about creating a customer experience that aligns with culture?
Well, the first thing we do is we post that culture forward facing to the members. So they know they should expect to be empowered to live a healthier life. They know they should leave feeling better than when they arrived. They know that real relationships should be built with them, that the other core values, right? So we let them know, say, hey, this is our commitment to you. So then you set this level of expectation, which also does reinforce it to the staff. Mm-hmm. Because if they're like, wow, the members now expect this as well, it sure is important. We better do it. But I like, we do a lot of customer journey mapping, and that's when a customer sees your brand for the first time through advertising, to going through the sales process to become a member, hopefully a raving fan, and then referring people. And you look at all the touch points, whether they're technological or whether they're in-person touch points, not so much right now, but when we're back open, the in-person experience. And then we match the core values and say, okay, how do we make let's just say a check-in, for example, right? Ultimately, checking somebody into your club, all it is a barrier to entry. Nobody's like, I can't wait to check in, right? They're like, I just want to get in and work out. So we look at that and say, okay, if our goal is to make sure everybody leaves feeling better than when they arrived, and we want to build real relationships and make our community better, like all the different values, what does that look like in the check-in process? So we're working with the product, but okay, they created this host program. So in order to get you in quickly, you scan yourself in, but there's a centrally located podium where the host is there and they can see the entire floor. So Michael comes in and you can get in as quick as you want and swipe, but it's like pops up. Michael, great to see you. If you need anything at all, we're here for you. Enjoy your workout, get to it. So that's how technology makes it easier. That's how build a relation, the values get tied in. But it's really looking at the overall customer journey and all of the touch points and saying, okay, if we're going to, as we create this operational system, is it in line with all of these values?
Yeah. I think that's so smart. And I think so few gym owners that I talk to take the time to actually think about their client experience as a journey and map it. We actually do in some of our workshops a lot of storyboarding, because I think storyboards can be a really fun way to kind of articulate what is the story you want to create for your clients. And I think that's another one of those things that people treat like a task, but don't actually apply it.
Yeah.
And it's like all these exercises that coaches and mentors like us have people do. It's like we're not just making this shit up for fun,
right?
Like it actually has to actually flow through to how you do things every day, or else it's not worth it. And I think this is one of those tasks that I think can be really, really useful. Let me ask you this. When it comes to customer experience right now, one of the things that's the most challenging thing for gyms to face is to create a customer experience that actually responds to and has empathy for the way customers are feeling about coming to a gym, right? That they're hesitant to come back in for all the reasons that many of them should be hesitant. And for some reasons, maybe they shouldn't be. But one of the things we have to do is create a customer experience that's really responsive right now to this kind of COVID moment. So how are you seeing people do that in ways that you think are successful?
Well, one thing that, when you look at when people are afraid, so this is this little side note, but when you look at fear, right? And this is I used to do executive wellness, and I worked with this really great PhD, Robert Maurer, and he wrote the book called Mastering Fear. And he said, fear boils down to three things. One, the unknown. Two, you don't feel like you can handle something, you're not good enough. Or three, it's just out of your control. And that's what most people feel like with the pandemic, right? So the companies that I've worked with and talked to, and even my staff on my little team right now, that was the first thing I reminded everybody. Not just you, but that's what people are feeling. So let's approach it from that standpoint. So I said, the first thing is, in an unpredictable world, how much can you make predictable? So let them know, hey, throughout this process, here's how we're going to communicate to you. We're going to do it this many days a week. It'll be email. Then we'll do an ask me anything Wednesday, Facebook Live, so you can ask your questions. Also expect this, and that. Video is very powerful in that process. So when somebody's hesitant, a lot of the great clubs that have been successful through this period are video recording what it looks like to come in now. So, because people are saying, are they taking temperature? Are they requiring math? There's all these variables. So here's exactly what it looks like on video coming to our club. That'll, so you want to take as much of the unknown and unpredictability out of that situation. The other thing too, and I had a great consulting call last week, I was talking about freezes. And I said, this is the time where, again, I believe in doing the right thing. Freeze people. Do not push them to come back. Let them know it's okay. You're doing the right stuff. Communicate all of that. But if they're still, I don't know, say, you know what? Let's extend your freeze a month. I'll check in again and let's see how you feel then. That's the empathetic part. Because you're going to lose them if not. If you just try to push them back, or, hey, we're starting building tomorrow. Let's go. But yeah, so as much predictability as you can, show them all the awesome stuff that you're doing from a cleanliness standpoint. Make sure it's on brand. So, I can imagine, some of the, I've seen some of it, but some of the stuff you guys have done, it's fun, right? Because that's your brand. If you're more of a midtown athletic club in Chicago, who's not, they're a great club. They're just not as fun. It's more like I don't even know what the right word. I don't want to say uptight because that sounds bad, but very proper, right? If they put out a funny,
like a luxury vibe,
yeah, like a luxury vibe. If they put out something really funny, their members would probably be terrified, like they're not taking it seriously. So, Matt, stay with your brand. I really do think when you communicate, it's transparency, it's clarity. If you don't know, you don't know, and that's okay to say. It's okay to say, you know what? We don't know right now, but we're going to let you know as soon as we do. And that applies to staff as well. But stay on brand, communicate frequently, use diverse methods, use video, show them what the experience is like. Let them know you are ready when they are. And that's nothing wrong with letting them know you're going beyond expectations at all times. But you say, we're not going to push you, but we know how important health and exercise is. And we're ready when you are. So we're going to check in with you.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's so smart, Chris. And listeners and viewers, I hope you're writing that down. That was a great list of things to go do immediately if you haven't already, for sure. And actually, it's been a theme in my last few conversations on this podcast, which is the idea of making sure you're communicating not just what your plan is, but what you don't know as well. And there's real power in that transparency. There's power in that, the authenticity of saying, hey, this is our plan. And we have no idea if this is going to change tomorrow.
Right.
Here's our plan for this. And we actually don't have a plan for this yet. And we'll have you one by Wednesday. That kind of, because for, speaking for myself and many of my clients, we've totally put out these grandiose plans and ideas, and then 48 hours later had to be liars and go back and be like, so sorry, that was not it anymore, because and so I think, that I want to just underscore that, because I think that's a really important one. And it's hard because I think we're kind of, taught to be a leader is to be someone who's decisive. To be a leader is someone who knows exactly what to do all the time. And that's never true, but it's even less true now.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. So I want to just ask maybe one more question before we get to our final five and see if we have time for this. I know when I ask before these conversations, one of the questions I ask is like, what do you think your superpower is? And you had said, that you think one of your superpowers is making people feel like they're the most important person in the room. And you even said, because they are. And so let me just talk to you a little bit about, I love that mentality, right? That mindset of like anyone I'm in the room with is the most important person in the room because I'm here and I'm present with them. And so I was just hear a little bit about why you think that way, how that mindset serves you. And then what do you mean by that? How do you make people feel like the most important person in the room?
It was a great question, and I had to do some thinking before I answered it. Prior to the thing, and I really thought back. And so my career really started off in high school, and I was teaching martial arts and running a martial arts studio as I went through high school and college. Mm-hmm. And I went to this was some martial art training conference like a million years ago. And I'll never forget the guy that was teaching it said, "Here's what you have to remember." Because as a martial art instructor, you're cocky. Like, I'm a martial artist and I'm fit and I'm cool. And I tell you 40 people in class what to do. And he had said that. And I think he had posed the question, who's the most important person in the room? And everybody, was like, well, we are, because we're demonstrating and we're showing and we're teaching. He goes, no, they are. Every single one of them is the most important in the room, because if they're not in the room, you don't have a room. And he said, the second thing to that is every single person came to see you. You have to make sure that you have a sincere interaction with every single person in that class for that day. Mm-hmm. So, and after that, I started teaching group exercise. So I just had that mentality that if I had a class of 50 people, I would have one sincere interaction with everybody in class. Now it was different for different people. Some just wanted to like, attaboy, good work. Some wanted to, come on, you work harder, or they wanted a high five, or they wanted to actually have a conversation after, you'd learn to read people and that sort of thing. But because I thought back and I figured you were going to ask that, where did that come from? But I think that really was the origin.
Yeah.
Right. And then getting into leadership roles, we all grow and develop. That's the best thing about being on podcasts and panels and presenting is the listener hears it and they're like, wow, these guys just do everything perfectly. I'm like, no, we still don't. And everything we do well is from years of screwing up and getting better at it. Right. So that has always been my mentality is everybody is more important than you. You got to make them feel like the most important in the room, because they are. Because if you don't make your staff feel that way through, treating them well and supporting them and making them grow and showing them the gratitude and appreciation that they deserve, they're never going to perform to the highest level possible, which allows you guys to accomplish your purpose as a company. Same thing with your members, right? They need to feel like they're the most important part of the room, because they are. If you don't have members, you don't have a club. So sort of that trickle down from the leadership to there. And I always tell in a leadership role, the staff, I said, here's my goal is I want to push you to be better than you ever thought you can be. I'm going to push you beyond what you think. And then I'm going to give you all the support you need to get there, because you're the most important person in this company. And that was just sort of that. But I think from that mentality, it sort of works backwards. Staff treat the members like they're the most important, because they are. They pay, they pay the bills. And then coming up, I'm at least, all I'm doing is I'm just a facilitator.
Yeah, I mean the phrase that keeps coming to mind as you're talking is this is what real service looks like, right? Or even servant leadership looks like, for those who like that concept, which is one where you have to constantly have the self-awareness enough to keep your ego in check and to pay attention to others about how they want to be served. We always talk about the platinum rule of, treat others how they want to be treated. And I think that you have to pay attention to all of those things, to your own ego, to what other people want, and really be of service to them to have that mindset. And so I think that's a really powerful one. I'm glad you brought it up, Chris.
One of the biggest things, by the way, I'll tell you that problems with leadership, and I've worked with leaders like this, is they expect everyone to lead like they do. Mm-hmm. And often, there are a lot of times where a leader is just a uniquely driven individual that nothing bothers, that's willing to work 24 hours a day, but they expect everyone else to be that way. So to your point of servant leadership and really looking at it from the staff's point of view and making sure that they're becoming better for having worked for you is absolutely key. Because if you have that and I've seen leaders fail, and I tell them, I go, hey, this person just needs to feel more appreciated. And they're like, why? Because they're not you. Most normal people need the pats on the back, especially, your mid-tier workers and that sort of thing. They need that. They're not your, high super driven. I don't need kudos at all. They just don't. So leaders need to recognize that people aren't them, and they need to be treated differently.
I'll even take it a step further. So I'll yes and you. Yes, they need to realize it's not them. They also, they're not always going to have a million managers who are like your favorite one, right? I know I fall into this trap where I have one manager who's just like does everything right. And maybe that everything right is they're a lot like me, maybe not, but sometimes. And then I compare everyone else to that person. Well, they don't need praise. Why do I need to give it to that person? Or they just did it because their intuition told them to. Why couldn't that person's intuition tell them to?
Right.
Well, it's like, well, we're humans, not robots. So you need to expand that concept to not just your staff, but your managers and other leaders too, to make sure that we're all individuals. We got to meet each other where we're at.
Yeah, and it's funny too. And I was, I mentioned that book earlier about mastering fear, and the one part in it too was like, okay, so now we know what defines fear. How do we deal with it? And he had a great acronym. It was like, I can't remember. It was like danger, like drugs, alcohol, all these bad things that people do. And then he had the most simple solution to dealing with that, and that's support. Just ask. So as a leader, it's something we did more formally at clubs, and I've implemented as a clubs we consult with, is we have new employee hire questionnaire. Hey, Michael, how do you like gratitude expressed to you? How do you like to be appreciated? If you could have a gift card anymore, ask, how can I help you more today? I mean, that's a powerful thing that sometimes leaders they think they should just know. And that's not the case. People appreciate when you ask them.
Totally. And I've even learned this. We've done like the work version of love languages. There's like a work, I think they call them appreciation languages or something. But and even that was fascinating, because we also learned there's some people on our team who actually don't know how they want to be appreciated. When you ask them, they actually are not sure. So it's going to be hard to meet their expectations if they can't articulate them to you. So going through that process is actually helpful for both parties. I mean, it's a big difference maker. Mate, this has been an amazing conversation so far. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all your insights and tips. I wish we could keep going, but I want to wrap it up and ask you these 5 final questions. There are 5 final questions I ask everyone. They're pretty much the same. I switched them from last year, but they're really just about you. And I treat it kind of rapid fire, but you're also welcome to elaborate if you really want to say some things. There's no timer there's no clock on the wall. So 5 final questions. Here we go, Chris. Number 1, what do you love about being a gym owner or being in the gym industry? One thing.
I mean, it's the best industry in the world. What other industries do you get to have just a massively positive impact on people mentally, physically, with their health, and really just make such a massive difference? Because when somebody loses weight, let's say, for example, their confidence goes up, they get sick less, they sleep better, they're better in their relationships, they're better at their job, their entire quality of life is improved by what we do. So I don't know that there's anything better than that.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome. Question number 2. What is one of the coolest things you've ever done for a client? We talk about over-delivering all the time and creating the best possible client experience. So what's one of the coolest things you've ever done for a client?
I mean, so the last club we owned and operated is a great example. We had a woo wall, and the woo stand for winning others over. So on that, we encourage people to do crazy cool things, and they get to write it on the board. So then every time somebody came out of shift, they'd look at all the cool stuff they did. So we had everything from like a trainer fostered a pet adoption because she happened to talk to one of these people who wanted, and she loved dogs, sent chicken soup to a sick woman, just little things like that. But personally, and this was just I think is because of my awareness in the situation, but I taught a class and I mixed my own music, and I was pretty good at that. Like it took years to get good. I was terrible at first, but I got really good at mixing like cool pop and with the right class. It was good mixes. And I remember a woman coming up to me going, "I loved that. That was incredible." So I threw it in a Dropbox, shot her a little email, and just said, "Hey," she didn't ask for it. She just said, "Great mix today. Oh my God, I was so motivated." So I just shot her an email and said, "Hey, you mentioned you like the mix. Here's a copy. Just download from Dropbox. Enjoy it when you exercise outside the facility." And blew her away. Amazing. Just absolutely blew her away. So this is like a little, I know it's nothing huge, but
those acts of kindness go such a long way. Personalized like that. I was listening, I was paying attention, and I responded. That's amazing. Question number 3. This one's about your team. So when someone on your team, and this could be presently or in the past, when they do this thing, it just makes you super happy. So what is the thing your team does that just really lights you up and makes you so excited?
I love seeing them succeed at a high level. I mean, I've had the opportunity to present, literally all over the world, consult workshops, and had some pretty amazing experiences based on my years of experience. When I see them get that same opportunity, it just makes me so happy when all of a sudden one of them gets booked, to speak on this or on this podcast or what. It means I've helped push them to get to that next level. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. It's almost kind of this parental thing. It's maybe more mentorship, but it is this like I see the folks who I'm trying to help others and
Yeah.
succeed and strive. That's so exciting. Yeah, amazing. Question number 4. We haven't talked about marketing at all, so this is my one marketing question for today, which is what is your most reliable strategy for generating leads? You got to go generate leads tomorrow for, let's say, a brick and mortar gym. What is the thing that you turn to generate leads the most reliable way?
I mean, right now it's just managing your social is what we've seen the best results with. It's strategic, well done social ads, and then creating just a solid social media profile that's out there. And then strategies, follow your competitors, follow the people who comment on their stuff, and at the right time after you've made some comments, then go in for to those hot leads. But we have a particular club locally that we're working with that is killing it that way, simply by follow all the local competitors. And by the way, you're not a bully. You're not going into everybody, but all of a sudden you follow them and you start commenting on their posts. And it's kind of like Gary Vee, where he's like jab, 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 uppercut. So build a relationship, comment, talk, engage. And then some people like, you got to try one of our classes. If you love this, you'd love this. Yeah. And we've seen massive success. So I think it's just really strategic with social.
Yeah. You mean use social media to be social? What a crazy idea. I love that. Awesome. Last question. Question number 5 is one thing you think gym owners can start doing better tomorrow. So one low-hanging fruit opportunity you think everyone could just make an improvement tomorrow if they just did this.
I think just be better communicators. I mean, really, solid, planned communicating strategies. We've heard everything from horror stories of clubs closing and not saying a word through this pandemic to clubs that have done a great job saying, hey, we're going to have, like I said, Ask Me Anything Tuesdays. And then on Thursday, you'll get your club updates. And on Friday. So, create good, clear, transparent, honest, diverse, meaning some videos, some social, some email communication strategies, and make sure that you're consistently engaging with those members, especially during a time of such unpredictability.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Awesome. Well, you did it. That was the final 5. You crushed it. Great answers. So in wrapping things up, Chris, how do people learn more about you or your businesses? How can they keep in touch with all the things you have coming up in your world?
So, feel free to follow me on social. Again, Chris Stevenson on Facebook. Instagram is the Chris Stevenson, not because I'm cool, because Chris Stevenson was taken. Twitter, Stevenson Strong. And then my email is chris@stevensonempowers.com. And then, so that's the company that it's the Empower Group, and we've been working with a lot of different owners and big facilities, small facilities. So we're happy to always help. And if something's small and easy, I mean, obviously we do big consulting projects, but I'm always happy to answer. If you have questions based on this, just hit me up. I'm happy to answer that and help out however I can. And then stay tuned. So our new company is called Be Military Fit Los Angeles, and Be Military Fit is the UK's largest outdoor brand. So it's Bear Grylls, the man versus wild guy. And we've had this opportunity to partner with them. They really want to bring their brand to the US. So that's our next project, is to help them bring their brand over here. So we're super excited.
That's amazing.
Except I have to teach a little bit. A little rusty, but
it's okay. It's good. You get you out of your comfort zone and get back on the floor. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for sharing your expertise and your passion and your experience. I mean, so many great takeaways from this conversation. So I hope you listeners and viewers were taking notes, but thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Anytime you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask.
Hey friends, before you go, just one more thing. If you enjoy this podcast, you get value out of it, you enjoy listening, please share this podcast, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please share it with friends and family. We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. And so the only way people find out about this podcast is from you. So please do everything you can to share it with friends and fellow colleagues in the fitness industry. We love making it, and we want to keep doing it for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support. Go have a kick-ass day. Bye.